Let's talk about the step-by-step process of bridge construction from an engineer's perspective. First up is project planning and the feasibility study. We start with site selection, which means we conduct topographic and geotechnical surveys of potential locations. Next, we move on to the feasibility study. Here we evaluate environmental, economic, and technical aspects to make sure the project is actually doable. And then there's the traffic study. This is where we analyze the type and volume of traffic the bridge will carry, just to be sure it meets future needs. Alright, so now we're moving into the preliminary design phase. Here we need to select the bridge type, like, for example, a beam, arch, suspension, cable stayed, or maybe even a truss bridge. Next up, it's time to prepare the conceptual design. This includes figuring out the layout, the elevation, and the span length of the bridge. And now we get to material selection. We'll need to choose between options like concrete, steel, composite materials, and so on. So, when it comes to load calculations, we need to consider dead load, live load, wind load, and seismic load. Next, we move on to detailed design and drawing. For structural design, well, we typically use software like ETABS or STAAD Pro. Foundation design is based on the soil-bearing capacity, which helps us determine whether a shallow or deep foundation is needed. And of course, reinforcement detailing is required for all reinforced cement concrete members. Now it's time to prepare working drawings for the abutments, piers, deck, and bearings. The next step is to secure environmental and legal clearances, which includes conducting an environmental impact assessment, or EIA. So, first, you need to obtain permits from road, railway, waterway, and environmental authorities. If it's required, land acquisition comes next. Moving on to site preparation, you'll want to mobilize by arranging labor, equipment, and materials. After that, clear the site by removing vegetation, any existing structures and debris, then set up temporary facilities like a site office, workers' camp, and access roads. Now soil excavation is carried out up to the required depth. For deep foundation work, piling is done using either bored or driven piles. Now let's talk about the raft or well foundation if that's applicable to the project. Next up is the casting of pile caps or footings. Moving on to substructure construction. Here, we build the piers and abutments, which can be made from reinforced cement, concrete, or masonry, depending on the design requirements. Now, let's install the bearings. These can be elastomeric or pot bearings, and they're placed right on top of the piers. Next up is the superstructure construction. Here, we're installing the girders or trusses, which can be made of steel or pre-stressed concrete. Moving on, it's time for deck slab casting. This is done using formwork or sometimes with precast segments, depending on the design. Curing is, really important for concrete strength gain. Next up, we move on to approach road construction, which includes earth filling and compaction. Now let's talk about pavement layers. These include the subbase, the base, and the wearing course. And finally, we have the finishing works. This covers the footpath, parapet walls, and railings. Alright, let's talk about expansion joints and the drainage system. And if it's needed, we'll also look at asphalt or bituminous surfacing. Next up, road markings and signboards. Now, moving on to testing and quality control. One important test is the cube test, which is used to check the compressive strength of concrete. Alright, so now it's time for the load test on the bridge deck. Next up, alignment and level checks are carried out using a total station and level machine. And step 12 is the final inspection and handover. At this stage, inspection is conducted by the authority or consultant. Now it's time to prepare the final reports and as-built drawings. Once that's done, we obtain the completion certificate. Finally, the bridge is commissioned and open for traffic.